Jayam Vishnupad Padamamsa Parvajakacharya, Asto Tarasata Shishimad, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Padamamsa Parvajakacharya, Asto Tarasata Shishimad, Sringa Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananti Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premzikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. New Dwarka Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. The Divine Lordship Sri Sri Rukmini Dwarkadish Ki Jai. The Divine Lordship Sri Jagannath Baldev Srimati Subhadra Ki Jai. The Divine Lordship Sri Sri Gauritai Ki Jai. Gaura Premananda Hare Bo. All glories to all the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to all the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to all the summer devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to the Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the second canto, chapter 4, text number 22. This chapter is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation. Prachodita Yena Pura Saraswati. Prachodita Yena Pura Saraswati. Vitanvata Jasya Satyam Smritim Ridi. Vitanvatasya Satyam Smritim Ridi. Swalakshana Pradurabhut Kilashyata. Swalakshana Pradurabhut Kilashyata. Sa me Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Sa me Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Prachodita Yena Pura Saraswati. Vitanvatasya Satyam Smritim Ridi. Salakshana Pradurabhut Kilashyata. Same Vishinam Rishabhi Prasaditam. Prachodita Yena Pura Saraswati. Vitanvataja Sasatim Smritim Hridi. Solakshana Pradurabhut Kilashyataha. Same Vishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Prachodita Yena Pura Saraswati. Vitanvatajasya Satim Smritim Hridi. Salakshana Pradurabhut Kilashyata. Same Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Nasasmati. Anyone else? Joditayena Pura Saraswati Vitan Vatajasya Satim Smitim Hiri Salakshana Padura Bhutkilashata Same Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Vaishnavis. Prachoditayena Pura Saraswati Vitan Vatajasya Satim Hritim Hridi Tasitana Taspajajana Shada Same Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Vaishnavis. Prachoditayena Pura Saraswati Salakshana Padura Bhutkilashata Same Rishinam Rishabha Prasidatam. Prachoditayena Pura Saraswati Vitanya Vatasha Satim Smiti Lakshana Bharavalo Vinashasana Masana Samasa Samvedatam Prachodita inspired. Yena, by whom? Pura, in the beginning of creation. Saraswati, the goddess of learning. Vitanvata, amplified. Vajasya, of Brahma, the first created living being. Satim Smritim, potent memory. Ridi, in the heart. Swa, in his own. Lakshana, aiming at. Pradurabhut, was generated. Kila, as if. Ashyata, from the mouth. Sa, he. Me, unto me. Rishinam, of the teachers. Rishabha, the chief. Prasidatam, be pleased. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. May the Lord, who in the beginning of creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. Please repeat. May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appear to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. Purport. As we have already discussed herein before, the Lord, as the supersoul of all living beings, from Brahma to the insignificant ant, endows all with the required knowledge potent in every living being. A living being is sufficiently potent to possess knowledge from the Lord in the proportion of 50/64, or 78% of the full knowledge acquirable. Since a living being is constitutionally part and parcel of the Lord, he is unable to assimilate all the knowledge that the Lord possesses himself. In the conditioned state, the living being is subject to forgetting everything about the change of body, known as death. This potent knowledge is again inspired by the Lord from within the heart of every living being. And it is known as the awakening of knowledge, for it is comparable to awakening from sleep or unconsciousness. This awakening of knowledge is under the full control of the Lord, and therefore we find in the practical world different grades of knowledge in different persons. This awakening of knowledge is neither an automatic nor a material interaction. The supply source is the Lord himself, the Yampati. For even Brahma is also subject to this regulation of the Supreme Creator. In the beginning of the creation, Brahma is born first without any father and mother, because before Brahma there were no other living beings. Brahma is born from the lotus which grows from the abdomen of the Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and therefore is known as Aja. This Brahma, or Aja, is also a living being, part and parcel of the Lord. But being the most pious devotee of the Lord, Brahma is inspired by the Lord to create, subsequent to the main creation by the Lord, through the agency of material nature. Therefore, neither the material nature nor Brahma is independent of the Lord. The material scientist can merely observe the reactions of the material nature without understanding the direction behind such activities, as a child can see the action of electricity without any knowledge of the powerhouse engineer. This imperfect knowledge of the material scientist is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The Vedic knowledge was therefore first impregnated within Brahma, and it appears that Brahma distributed the Vedic knowledge. Brahma is undoubtedly the speaker of the Vedic knowledge, but actually he was inspired by the Lord to receive such transcendental knowledge, as it directly descends from the Lord. The Vedas are therefore called apaurushaya, or not imparted by any created being. Before the creation, the Lord was there, Narayana Paravyaktat, and therefore the words spoken by the Lord are vibrations of transcendental sound. There is a gulf of difference between the two qualities of sound, namely prakrita and aprakrita. The physicist can deal only with the prakrita sound, or sound vibrated in the material sky, and therefore we must know that the Vedic sound recorded in symbolic expressions cannot be understood by anyone within the universe, unless and until one is inspired by the vibration of supernatural aprakrita sound, which descends in the chain of disciplic succession from the Lord to Brahma, from Brahma to Narada, from Narada to Vyas, and so on. No mundane scholar can translate or reveal the true import of the Vedic mantras, hymns. They cannot be understood unless one is inspired or initiated by the authorized spiritual master. The original spiritual master is the Lord himself, and the succession comes down through the sources of parampara, as clearly stated in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So unless one receives the transcendental knowledge from the authorized parampara, one should be considered useless, nishpala mata, even though one may be greatly qualified in the mundane advancements of arts or science. Sukadeva Goswami is praying to the Lord by dint of being inspired from within by the Lord, so that he could rightly explain the facts and figures of creation as inquired by Maharaj Parikshit. A spiritual master is not a theoretical speculator like the mundane scholar, but a shrotriyam brahmanishtam. Jai. Om Jnana Tamanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshus Ulmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Upagadamayam Dadati Swabadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the verse again. May the Lord, who in the beginning of the creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of creation and of his own self, and who appeared to be generated from the mouth of Brahma, be pleased with me. So these are wonderful prayers spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to invoke the mercy of the Lord so that he can speak nicely and think of him. So this is very nice. A devotee is always eager to hear about the Lord and actually meditate on his qualities. So these 11 verses here, which Sukadeva Goswami is invoking the mercy of the Lord, he's actually just mentioning all the qualities of the Lord. And if you go through all these verses in detail, you see there's about 50 qualities he's expressing to the Lord. And I'm not going to go through the Sanskrit verses or anything of these verses, but it starts with text number 12. And he's talking about the Lord, and he's explaining who the Lord is, you see. And this is how he's describing him. For the creation, so many different things. And he says here, he's the creation. I don't know, sorry about that.
Chapter 1.
Sorry about that. Siri has a mind of her own. It's crazy. Crazy mind. Anyway, so she's listening to the Bhagavatam. So again here, so see, he's saying who, for the creation of the material world, he accepts the three modes of material nature. He's a form of complete existence and transcendence. He's a liberator. He's the one that grants different destinations. He's an associate of the members of the Yadu dynasty. He's a supreme enjoyer. There's no one equal to him. He's all auspicious. His whom glorification, remembrances, audiences, and prayers, hearing and worship of that can cleanse at once the effects of all sins of the performer. He's highly intelligent. And those that worship his feet are relieved of all attachments to present and future existence. He's all auspicious. And it's described here that you can't achieve the Vedic principles unless one dedicates these to the Supreme Lord. And then one is purified by just taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord due to him being the supreme power. So it goes on and on. There's so many nice things. It describes him as the super soul and so many different things here. He's a protector. He's the worshipful Lord. He's a husband of the goddess of fortune. He's a director, the leader, the controller of intelligence. That was mentioned in verse 20. And again, it's mentioned in this particular verse. He's a proprietor, supreme incarnation. So he's talking about all the qualities of the Lord. He's remembering the Lord. So he's very eager to do that so that he feels that he's invoking the mercy of Krishna. So text number 22, again, he's saying the Lord, who in the beginning of creation, he amplified this potent knowledge within the heart of Brahma. So what are we actually talking about here is this is Krishna inspiring Lord Brahma, the first created being. From Krishna's flute comes the Gayatri mantra. And from that Gayatri, it enters into Lord Brahma's heart. And he hears that. And from that sound vibration, all the Vedas are emanating from his mouth. So it appears that all the Vedic literatures are appearing from Lord Brahma's mouth, but actually it's coming from the flute of Krishna. It's coming from Krishna. He's inspiring him. So it comes like that. So just like in the Madhya Lila, there's Ramananda Roy is being inspired by Lord Chaitanya to speak. And Ramananda Roy is still feeling the same way. And he explains in the Madhya 8, 265, he says, the supersoul within everyone's heart speaks not externally, but from within. He instructs the devotees in all respects, and that is his way of instruction. This is how the Lord is still instructing everyone, as said in the purport, that he is the supersoul of all living beings, and he can inspire people in any particular knowledge. And that's why we see different personalities have different levels of knowledge. There's different hierarchy, you could say, of different knowledges. So, so here in the purport to that verse in the Madhya Lila, Srila Prabhupada writes, it is a supersoul that inspires a devotee. Therefore, he is the original source of the Gayatri mantra, which states, Om Bhur Bhuvah Swat Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasha Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Savita is the original source of all intelligence. That Savita is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Guess where it's confirmed? In today's verse. Today's verse, that's the proof. You know, how the Lord from the beginning of creation amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him. So that's the verse today. So this is Sukadeva Goswami is also invoking the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead before delivering the Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. So in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada summarizes this section that I was just reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita regarding Ramananda Roy. So after discussing some time, Srila Prabhupada summarizes that Ramananda Roy fell at the feet of the Lord. And he said, my dear Lord, you are so kind to me that you have taught me about the science of Krishna, the science of Radharani, the science of their loving affairs, the science of their rasa dance, and the science of their pastimes. I never thought that I should be able to speak on these subject matters. You have taught me as you formerly taught the Vedas to Brahma. So Prabhupada continues, this is a system of receiving instructions from the Supersoul. Externally, he is not to be seen, but internally he speaks to the devotee. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10:10. What's that verse? Satatam yuktanam bhajati purvakam didami buddhiyogam tam. So this is Krishna intelligence. The Lord dictates from within to anyone who is sincerely engaged in his service. And the Lord acts in such a way that such a person can ultimately attain the supreme goal of life. When Brahma was born, there was no one to instruct him. Therefore, the Supreme Lord himself instructed him. And then Prabhupada quotes this verse again in today's verse, how that the Gayatri mantra was first imparted to the heart of Brahma from Krishna himself. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes, this verse is also similar to the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It talks about this. And Prabhupada quotes it here. And it's very nice. He says here, he quotes the verse, let me offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, its maintenance and dissolution as well. So it's almost like Sukadeva Goswami is also meditating all these things, as we mentioned, the different qualities of Krishna in these 11 verses. Who is the cause of the cosmic manifestation, its maintenance and dissolution as well. If we scrutinizingly try to understand the supreme truth, we can understand that he knows everything directly and indirectly. He is the only Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is He only who is fully independent. He alone instructed Brahma as the Supersoul within. Even the greatest scholars become bewildered in trying to understand the Supreme Truth, because the entire perceivable cosmic manifestation is situated within Him. This material manifestation, a byproduct of fire, water, air, and earth, only appears to be factual. It is in Him alone that the spiritual and material manifestations, as well as the living entities, rest. Therefore, He is the Supreme Truth. So right in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, similar verse, invoking Krishna like that. So the Gayatri Mantra is actually very powerful. And this is why the devotees, we want to come to the level of a Brahminical platform so that we can get help from the Gayatri Mantra. There's the Maha Mantra and there's the Gayatri Mantra. So we have the holy names, and then we have different hymns like the mantras. So there's a nice book out by Satchidananda Swami. It's called the Gayatri Book. And in there he does a lot of research on the Gayatri, and it gives us some nice insights on the Gayatri Mantra. And I'd just like to give a couple of definitions he gives from the book. And there's another section he talks about the difference between the Maha Mantra and the Gayatri Mantra. So he says here that the Gayatri, it delivers one from material existence. The word Gayatri is derived from Gaya, singing, and Tra, which means protecting or delivering. So based on this etymological meaning, Srila Prabhupada quoted the following verse to explain the meaning of Gayatri. Gayatam trayate yasmad. Gayatri tvam tata smrita. One who chants the Gayatri mantras is gradually delivered from the material clutches. In other words, that which delivers us from material entanglement is called Gayatri. So in other words, since the mantra being chanted, Gayatam, protects one, Trayate, it is called Gayatri. So that's what we do for protection. So then he says, Gayatri is Krishna himself. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna identifies the Gayatri mantra as a sound vibration identical with himself. Gayatri chadamsi yaham. Of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Srila Prabhupada states in his purport to this verse, because the Gayatri mantra is especially meant for God realization, it represents the Supreme Lord. This mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one attains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. The Gayatri mantra is very important in Vedic civilization, and it is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman. Brahma is its initiator, and it is passed down from him in disciplic succession. So this Gayatri mantra is meant to worship Krishna. So it's given in our Gaudiya Sampradaya to qualified disciples. And then they worship Krishna in different aspects. So here he gives a couple examples. The Brahma Gayatri worships Lord Krishna as one who enthuses the life of his devotees. The Guru Gayatri, by which we worship the spiritual master, can be seen as indirect worship of Krishna. Sakshat Haritvena Samasta Sastrayar. So that's how we worship the Guru. And then the Gaura Gayatri worships Lord Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is addressed in this mantra by the name Vishvambara, the maintainer of the world. And then the Gopal Gayatri, these are the different Gayatri mantras you receive. There's, 7 different ones that the devotees chant. So this one here, we worship Lord Krishna as 3 aspects as Modan Mohana, Govinda, and Gopinath, the presiding deities of the possessors of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. And then the Kama Gayatri worships the Lord as a transcendental Cupid who invites all the conditioned souls into his loving pastimes. So this is it. So, yeah, so he goes on. So there's another nice section in there. He talks about the difference between the two. And I'd like to just bring up some of these. So he says here that, all the scriptures, they glorify the chanting of the holy name, above all other methods of devotional service. And Lord Chaitanya even said, of all the 9 processes of devotional service, simply by simply chanting the holy name. So why do we need the Gayatri mantras? And so he says, we need them because the ultimate result, Krishna Prema, can only be attained if we chant the holy name without offense. As the perfect teacher, the Supreme Lord in his form as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs us by taking the role of a conditioned soul. So Prabhupada quotes a verse here, or he quotes a verse. The Nam Namakari Bahudi Nija Sarva Shaktis. My dear Lord, although you bestow your mercy upon the fallen conditioned souls, by liberally teaching your holy names, I am so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting the holy name, and therefore I do not achieve attachment for chanting. So here he goes on to explain how, because the ordinary conditioned souls are so completely covered by an almost impenetrable cloud of anartha, material desire, and offense, they cannot chant the holy name purely. At best, they chant namabhyas, by which they obtain wonderful preliminary results, including freedom from sinful reactions. But they do not achieve the final goal of chanting prema. Chanting, which is prema. It can't be achieved unless we chant with pure consciousness, Sudha Nam. But before being able to chant Sudha Nam, our anantas must be completely eradicated, and firm attachment for the Lord's devotional service must be established in the heart. And to help us do this, the merciful Acharyas has given us deity worship, for which we require the Gayatri mantras. Deity worship is a powerful method of purifying the heart. It is therefore highly recommended that devotees accept second initiation, receive the Gayatri mantras, and engage in archana, following the prescribed rules and regulations in order to worship the Lord properly. So he quotes Prabhupada as explaining this mantra diksha, how it helps us chant the holy name. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can reach the platform of love of Godhead. One might ask, then, what is the necessity of being initiated by mantra diksha? The answer is that even though the chanting of the holy name is sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of God, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the archana vidhi. So he goes on, so it's very nicely described there. So he describes these bija mantras, these seed syllables in the Gayatri mantra, especially as transcendental sonic thunderbolts. They drive away material contamination and enable us to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra without offense. So only we can chant without offense. Only when we chant without offense will Krishna's holy name bear its transcendental fruit. So we should be inspired to accept that help. So this is the reason of the Gayatri mantra. So unfortunately I had so much more to share with you today, but it's running out of time. But anyway, I had put together all these different qualities of Krishna. And as we know, there's 64 qualities. And as Prabhupada says in the purport, that we can obtain up to 50 64ths, which means that we can attain 50 of those qualities. And you could go through them, read them. And in fact, there's another place where Srila Prabhupada says that those who are pure devotees, like Lord Brahma, they can actually obtain up to 55. So this is nicely described. And then I went into describing all the different transcendental arts that Krishna learned in school, which are 64. And it'd be nice to go through those also, to see all this knowledge that Krishna has given us in this material world and where it comes from. It's so nice. It's very beautiful to be described. So, and then I went on to describe different sections in the purport that Srila Prabhupada had quoted, and I went into detail on those, like Nispala Mata, that you're useless if you don't receive these mantras from disciplic succession. So I was going to talk about a little bit of this interview Srila Prabhupada had with John Lennon and Yoko Ono and George Harrison, and it's very nicely described there. So we don't have time for that. But then I was going to describe also about this nectar, which Srila Prabhupada describes in this verse. It's really amazing. It's like the essence of everything. And as we mentioned, the essence is this mantra that we experience, and how we get this direction from the Supreme Lord from within. So every once in a while you're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you stumble on something that Srila Prabhupada just blows your mind. And coming up in the next couple of verses, this verse relates to the verse today, and I'll just end with this. And this is in verse 24, where he finishes his prayer, invoking the mercy of the Lord, and he offers his obeisances to Srila Vyasadeva. And he mentions in that verse that the pure devotees drink up the nectarian transcendental knowledge dropping from the lotus-like mouth of the Lord. And in the purport there, Srila Prabhupada says some amazing things. So I'd just like to read a couple paragraphs and then we'll end. Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur has made a further advance, namely that the nectar from the mouth of Lord Krishna is transferred to his different consorts, and thus they learn the finer arts of music, dance, dressing, decorations, and all such things, which are relished by the Lord. Such music, dance, and decorations enjoyed by the Lord are certainly not anything mundane, because the Lord is addressed in the very beginning as para, or transcendental. This transcendental knowledge is unknown to the forgotten conditioned souls. Srila Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, thus compiled the Vedic literatures to revive the lost memory of the conditioned souls about their eternal relation with the Lord. One should therefore try to understand the Vedic scriptures, or the nectar transferred by the Lord to his consorts, in the conjugal humor from the lotus-like mouth of Vyasadeva or Sukadeva. So that was the first paragraph. And I'll end with this short paragraph at the end. Actually, it's just a sentence. But we'll see. In that interview with George Harrison, they said, well, how do you know who's the authority? I mean, there's so many scriptures out there. How do you know? Everybody has their own translation verse. And Srila Prabhupada says, he ends it with those who are most addicted to hearing about Krishna, most addicted to Krishna, they are the ones. So listen to this last sentence. The pure devotees of the Lord, however, can equally relish the nectar in the form of the profound philosophical discourses and in the form of kissing by the Lord in the rasa dance, as there is no mundane distinction between the two. Is that amazing? This is how the gopis learned all the different arts of music and dance and so many things, by the kisses of the Lord. So reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada is saying there is no difference. There's no mundane distinction between the two. So this is the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there was one nice quote that I had from Chandramali Swami. He said, we should make it a habit to read Srimad Bhagavatam every day. It gets straight to the essence and tells you like it is. Reading from the Bhagavatam gives us the direct association of the Lord, Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada. What else could we want? Right? So, do we have time for any comments, questions, or realizations? Anybody has anything? Anyway, this is like, I made it into like a little book, all these references that I did. If anybody's interested, you can have a copy. And you can go through that and see in more detail what I was talking about. So thank you for your kind attention. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.